What's up? Welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about why did I start traveling. Initially, what was the jump for me? How did I start? And yeah, we'll just jump right into it. So about 6-7 years ago now, I was online looking up jobs, right? I was at home in my family's home, and I'd always wanted to travel. Travel has always been something I've been super curious about. And therefore that led to me, one day I was working as a server, I think, and I was so sick and tired of that job. And so sick and tired of like hanging out in the same area with the same people, doing the same types of deals, So I went online, I think I looked on Craigslist, and I saw an opportunity to work on a cruise ship. And I thought, wow, that's super cool. Like I don't know anybody that works on a cruise ship. Coming from where I'm from, Albuquerque, we don't even have the ocean around us at all. So I was like, okay, that's super cool. I'm gonna apply. Don't think I'm gonna hear back from it. Boom, let's do it. So we did it. I think, I don't know, a month goes by. They reach out to me to schedule an interview, and I get the interview, and I just remember talking to the recruiter, her saying, oh, I think you'd be a wonderful fit, this and that. Let's make sure you get all these credentials. In order to work on a cruise ship, there's so many credentials you need. They're really easy. You just need to pay for stuff like your TWIC card. You need to pay for like a medical examination. And then you also need to get like a merchant mariner credential, your MMC. And those are pretty much the three basic things you need to get started on the cruise ship. Anyhow, you have to apply, you have to pay, and then once you get hired on the cruise ship, they reimburse you for all that. So I did the whole process, took another, 2-3 months. At this point in my mind, I'm like, no way this is really happening. I don't know anything about travel. I've never done this in my life. I've never had this opportunity. There's no way this is real, right? So yeah, like I said, a couple months goes by. I hear back out from them once I get all my paperwork done, and they say, all right, congratulations, we're gonna send you out to Maryland for a week of training, and once you do that, then you'll be flown to Hawaii. The cruise ship that I was gonna work on is called the Pride of America, and that ship specifically is based around the Hawaiian Islands. And so to me, I knew that when I applied too. I was like, no freaking way, no way they're gonna send me to Hawaii, man. This is like a dream to me, right? So I applied, got the job, finally went to Maryland to do the week of training, right? And I met some other cool people. I met some people that I still talk to this day. And the training was actually overall enjoyable. I really liked that part. It was, like 6-7 days of waking up at 9 a.m. to about 5 p.m. That's when the core of the classes was. And in that you had like basic firefighter training, you had, first aid, search and rescue. You had different types of objectives that you had to essentially pass. They were like certificate-based classes, so each day you have a different certificate that you need to accomplish, that you need to show that you can do, right? And so after that week, once you pass all those things, then they send you to Hawaii, so like directly to Hawaii after that. So I finished the week with everybody. I actually had a problem with I don't know, my MMC or something with the Coast Guard. I forget what it was now. But so they sent me back home for 1 week, and they said, as soon as you get that figured out, you're going to Hawaii. So I went back home for a week, and then I don't know, it cleared up, I guess, I forgot. And boom, a week later, I'm on my way to Hawaii. And in my mind, I'm blinded by, I'm going to Hawaii, right? This is, I'm getting paid to go to Hawaii. My flight's taken care of. I have a place to sleep, because when you work on a cruise ship, it includes a place to stay for free. It includes food for free, and then you're working the whole time, so you are making money. Those are the highlights of what working on a cruise ship is, I'll say. And so the position that I got was a server, or a server assistant to begin with, right? Not even a server. So we fly to the cruise ship. I fly to the cruise ship, and from day one, man, that was an adventure. The whole cruise ship itself was an adventure. Like that was my first time being on a cruise ship at all in general. I've never taken a cruise in my life, and then just to get behind the scenes and start working on a cruise ship, that was very interesting, very, very interesting, especially if you're doing some sort of manual labor on the ship. they tell you it's going to be 40 to 50 hours a week. You could toss that out the window unless you, I don't know anybody that only worked 40 to 50 hours a week on a cruise ship, man. Everybody's working 60, 70, 80-hour work weeks. You don't have much time off. If you're lucky, depending on what department you are, but for the majority of departments that make the ship go around, unless you're like a striped officer, or if you do something in entertainment, or you're like an engineer on the ship, you're going to be working your ass off. And even those people, they still work a lot. The people that I just listed, they still work a lot, but to a different degree. And there's definitely there's status on the ship. So I say that because it sort of felt like high school to me, because there was a social status, right? When you're new, you don't know anybody, and if you have a crap job on the ship, you had a social status which was low. If you were an entertainer, if you were, a striped officer, or you had 1 star, 2, 3, 4 stars, you had higher status, and you literally ate better foods. You got access to different spots, and you usually had more time off. So yeah, ended up going to Hawaii, right? I got a little sidetrack explaining the whole cruise ship ordeal. Ended up going to Hawaii, and so at this point I'm still like super pumped. I'm super excited. But from the second we landed in, or the second that I landed in Hawaii, right? There's no time to go look around to go see this. No, it's like you land there, boom, they got people waiting, or I think we took a taxi. We had to take a taxi. I randomly met some of the people that were going to work on the ship as well. So we took a taxi down to the port where the cruise ship ports in Honolulu. So straight from I think we flew into Maui. I don't remember now. It's been so long, guys. Anyhow, we flew into Maui, got off the plane, took the taxi straight down to the cruise ship, and bam! Once you're on that ship, I think we had a orientation within the first hour, and then from there it was like, all right, you're going to be doing this, this, and this. They give you all your uniforms, all this and that, So the first day is kind of like just getting your feet wet. You're going over the ship, going over all the safety things that you learned from Maryland, and really implementing it and seeing it for yourself. So I think the first day, maybe 2 or 3 days, is like that, like kind of a soft landing, where you're in the class, like they're explaining this is how things are going to work, all that good stuff. And then, I don't remember, the 3rd, 4th day, something like that, it's boom, you hit the ground running. You got your uniform. There's no excuse to be late on the cruise ship at all, because it's a cruise ship. Where are you gonna go? You're in the middle of the ocean. Everybody knows everybody on the ship that works there for the most part, or at least you've seen the people that work there, so you understand, you know who these people are more or less. And yeah, it was a lot of work, right? So I mean, I'm not kidding when I say I had usually 12-hour work days for 6-7 days a week. You don't get a day off on the cruise ship industry. If you're lucky, if you work some sort of retail gig, or if you work some sort of like events where you only have to do, I don't know, minimal work, I guess, then you might get a night off here and there. Or if you're really lucky, you get a day off. I don't know how you do that. That was above me, clearly. But I heard that happening. Never happened to me or anybody that I worked with, though. And so I remember one night, I was lucky, I got one night off. And so it had been like a month at this point where I was working on the cruise ship, working my ass off. And we were in port in Kauai. And you're working on the cruise ship and you become friends with the people that you start working with. So we go out, me and a couple other people that I was working with at the time go to this local bar in Kauai. And that was a funny night. So we ended up going to this bar. I ended up getting way too drunk, absolutely hammered drunk. It didn't take me much to get drunk because I wasn't really even a drinker at this point in my life. I hardly drank alcohol. And so I don't remember, I drank several beers that night, way too drunk. And so in the mornings, you have to be in certain places at certain times when you're on the cruise ship. It's very strict, very militant like that. So I knew I had work at 6 in the morning, and it was already like 1, 2 in the morning. I'm drunk. So we ended up making our way back down to the cruise ship. It would have been better, actually, I found out later. It would have been better just to sleep on the beach, miss my entire shift, and then get up and go when I was good and ready to go. Nonetheless, I didn't do that. And that would have been better. I still would have gotten in trouble, but not to the degree that which I got in trouble for. So you end up going back on the cruise ship. I end up passing out in my bunk, right? And that's a whole other dynamic there. You have when you're on a cruise ship, you have free rent, right? But you're sharing a tiny bedroom. I mean, a tiny bedroom, maybe 200 square feet. That's including your bathroom. Okay, maybe 300 square feet. It's not that big. That's including your bathroom. You have lockers, and then you have 2, maybe 3 roommates in that. So I had 2 other roommates. Yeah, but anyhow, I get back in there at 2 in the morning. Try not to wake up my roommates. I go to bed. I'm done. So a couple hours goes by. I'm woken up to the sound of pounding on my door. It's I guess. So the manager of where I was working, which was called the main dining room hall, was reported me that I was not there for my shift. So that means security goes out looking for you, because like I said, it's a cruise ship, it's small, everybody knows everybody. Like, where is this guy at, And so we were in port that night, so I definitely should have stayed on the beach. I did it. So they go knocking on my door, they find me, I'm passed out, I'm hungover. And this guy's knocking hard. He's not playing games. And so like eventually he gets the door open, I guess, because I don't know, I took too long to respond. And he says, "Come with me." And so in my mind, I'm like I'm hungover to the fullest degree. I have no idea what's going on. I know I missed my shift. I'm like, oh, this probably isn't good, right? So he takes me to the staff captain, and the staff captain gives me a breathalyzer right then and there, like boom. You're taking a breathalyzer. So on the ship, you're not really allowed to drink at all. You're allowed to drink when you're off, but even then, that's still like gray area. Like, you're not really supposed to drink that much at any given time on the ship. And especially if you have work, you're not supposed to be intoxicated. They have such a low alcohol limit. I forget what it is. It's like a 0.2, 0.4. I don't know. It's something very, very low, to where like if you drink 1 beer, basically you're going to be over that. Doesn't matter if you're a big guy, a little girl, doesn't matter how much you weigh, you're basically going to be over that if you have 1 beer. So I blew just over the limit to get in trouble. And the way it works is they give you 2 breathalyzers. They space them out 30 minutes in between. So I blew like a 0.41. I don't remember what it was exactly. It was just like a tiny smidge over. And the staff captain looks at me and says, "Oh, that's not good." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's probably not good." And so 30 minutes goes by. He's like, "Yeah, this is standard. We give this to everybody just to make sure." And so I take the second test. I blow a 0.39, which is literally just under the limit. Because if I would have blown over twice, that would have been it. No hearing your story. You're gone. Get out. And if you get kicked off a cruise ship while you're working, there's no flight home. There's no transportation. It's get your bags, get out. So I was sweating at this point. I was like, oh, this is not good. And so yeah, luckily I blew just under the limit, to where I basically had a meeting with the actual captain. It's called captain's court. And then you have all the high-ranking officers sitting at an oval table, literally, and you explain your story as to why you did what you did, why you missed your shift, and why you were drunk, obviously. And then you have a representative from, so when you're working on a cruise ship, you're usually unionized. I never really got any incentives to the union other than the guy speaking on my behalf. And luckily for me, the guy speaking on the union representative was actually a guy that I worked with every day, and he was a hard ass, but to me he was really cool because he saw me working hard. And so that really played a big role in me staying on that ship after that point, because he really saved me. He pretty much spoke entirely on my behalf. And I don't know, there was like 10 high-ranking officers there who control whether you stay on the ship or not at this point. And he pretty much spoke for me the entire time. And he got me, get out of jail free card. You're one get out of jail free card. So I got fortunate in that sense. All right, but at this point, I already hated this job. I was over it. I was like, man, this is soul tearing. This is physically demanding. There's no fun. The morale on the ship is low, right? Like, they have such a high turnover rate on cruise ships, and they really can't keep them staffed. there's certain areas where they do, and there's, you know, is what it is. But, you know, the ship that I was flagged on is an American flagged vessel. Therefore, we got paid like American rates wherever the ship was docked at, which is Honolulu. So we got paid the local wage of Hawaii, which at the time was like $9, $10. I don't remember. Now I think it's like $15 in Hawaii. But yeah, at that time it was like $9 or $10. And yeah, so the morale's low on the ship. At this point, you know, I got the job, but I really don't want this job, and I really loathe this job. And so I was really young and stupid with my money. So instead of saving all that money, I don't know what I was spending it on. I was going out to eat, I guess going out to drink too much, going out to, who knows how that money went, but it was gone like that. And so I remember making really good friends with this girl. And then it was her, and it was her friend that I knew that we didn't really get along per se, but we didn't have a problem at this point. So I ended up talking to all of them, and we're like, hey guys, all right, we're gonna give ourselves X amount of time, then we're gonna do what's called jump shit right. You quit, and wherever you're in port, you plan it out so that way you get off, you go, take all your stuff, because there's no second chances. Goodbye, get out of here if you quit, you know, type of deal. So it's like you better have something figured out. So at this point, this is where the story starts getting more like, yeah, I'm in Hawaii, you know, go figure it out. Because the whole time I was on the ship was like, bam, you're working. I remember one night, this is probably the coolest thing, the two coolest things that I got to see while I was on the cruise ship. So when you're on the Pride of America, it sails around the Hawaiian Islands, and when it sails around Kauai, you get to see the Nepali coast, which, if you've ever seen like the opening scene to Jurassic Park and you see the helicopter flying over these beautiful mountains and you see the ocean right there and rainbows and the birds are singing, the dolphins are jumping, that's what Nepali coast is. And I remember one time I had like a little bit of time before my shift, so I went upstairs to like the terrace area, to the very top of the ship, and I got to see the Hawaiian coast, or the Nepali coast at sunset. And man, I swear the rainbows were out, the birds were chirping, the dolphins were jumping, and it was just the most magical thing I had ever seen at this point in my life. You know, it was like a painting, something you had to be there to see. Really magical. And then the other really super awesome thing that happened that I got to see was we sailed around Big Island at nighttime, and I don't know, we were a couple hundred yards out from the island, but at nighttime it's completely dark, and on Big Island they have the lava flowing into the ocean. So I remember I was working, and actually the staff captain was like, hey, have you ever seen the lava? You need to go check that out. And I was like, no, I haven't. And so he let me go up there for like 10-20 minutes and just go check out the lava, and that was so freaking beautiful to see the lava flowing into the ocean. You could see all the smoke, and it looked so crazy. And it was at nighttime, and you could still see it very clearly, even though we were a good distance away as well. So two things I will never forget while working on that ship. But other than that, there was no experiencing Hawaii, right? Like in my mind, I had these ideas as to what Hawaii would be. Nothing like that at all. So yeah, that was a good learning experience for me. That job taught me a lot of work ethic for sure. Because when you wanted to complain, when you wanted to not work, everybody else around you is working just as hard, if not harder. So it's like, buddy, you gotta suck it up, and you gotta put your shoes back on and go back to work. You know, go work your 70-hour work weeks, because everybody else is doing it here. They might be complaining and moaning and groaning, but they're doing it as well. So it's like, you know, it becomes a sort of like a status, like you need to go out there and get this done. Because if not, also you leave more work for the people around you. Because if something doesn't get done on the cruise ship, somebody else has to cover that. So yeah, there's no excuses. Like I said before, everybody knows where you're at any given moment. So go get the work done, right? So yeah, up until this point, those were my experiences of Hawaii. And like, yeah, I went out in port once or twice, but it wasn't anything magical. Like, I don't think I ever rented a car or did anything. I might have went to go watch a movie once or twice, like in port, like walking distance from the port, but that was about it, right? So anyhow, I make these friends. I make one really good friend, and the other one is like more of an acquaintance that I know. Like she's gonna live with us. We're gonna pay rent in the third, and it's gonna work for us, okay? And so the idea was that we were gonna give ourselves 2 weeks from when the time that we jumped ship to the time that we quit. We were gonna give ourselves 2 weeks in Hawaii to find jobs, to find places to live, you know, figure out transportation, the whole 9 yards, right? So I remember the first week, the first night, pretty much. So it's called the Seafarers Union, and pretty much they have hotels in certain areas in Honolulu. They have one, like kind of in the downtown area. And they usually give you cheaper rates because it's usually sailors, people in the Navy, Coast Guard that are in between deployment, transitions, whatever. And they just need a place to stay for like, you know, up to a week essentially. They don't want you staying too long. But it's like, you know, up to a week you could pay like a low rate. I don't remember what it was, like $50 a night, which for Hawaii is cheap. And yeah, you have your own private room and your own personal space. So the first night, man, there was a bunch of rules the guy went through. I was completely exhausted when we checked in. I like it went in one ear, out the other, essentially. And one of the rules was you cannot, like, each room, you have a window that lifts up and you have like an escape rail, because we're on the second or third level. You have like an escape rail to where you could, I don't know, to me it looked like you could hang out. And so I was drinking a beer, talking to one of my friends, and next thing I know I heard pounding on my door, and the guy's like, "Hey, you broke the rules, get out." So, so I literally got kicked out my first night in this place, and I'm like, shit, what do I do now? You know, and then my other two friends were still staying there. And, you know, obviously, you know, we'll talk. We're like, well, you screwed this up, Michael. I'm like, yeah, I did. So I ended up staying at the YMCA because that was the only other place that I could find within like an hour, 2 hours. That was relatively cheap. I think I ended up paying like $80 or $100 for one night there. And this YMCA, this is one of the like sketchiest places I've ever been to in my life. I wish I was vlogging at this point in my life because this is insane, right? So I go to the YMCA, I check in, and then my floor or my room is on the second story. I go up there and I'm not kidding, this place is like a mental asylum, and it's an active one, and like you just see the craziest freaking people like screaming and kind of like banging their heads against the wall, like stereotypical, like what you'd think of when you see a movie with a mental asylum. That's what this place genuinely was. And I was like, holy crap, this is, what am I doing? You know, like I was genuinely nervous and scared. And so yeah, you walk down this hall, the lights are like literally flickering, and I'm like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? So I go check into my room. The room is no better, like you could hear everything from everywhere. The bed is like felt like a piece of cardboard. The light in the room is flickering on and off. Man, I was like, what the hell did I just do, you know? I was genuinely scared that night. I think I got like 2-3 hours of sleep because as soon as like the sun came up 6-7 a.m., boom, I was up. I was like, no, I can't stay here anymore. So I ended up meeting with my friends. We actually found a hotel to stay in Waikiki, and we ended up staying there for like a week, 2 weeks. I don't remember. We got this hotel on like a discount because they were having construction, so therefore it was cheaper. It was like $100 a night and split between 3 people. So we got this hotel, right? There was 2 beds, me and these other two girls. One of them was my friend, one of them, like I said, is an acquaintance. Anyhow, the week goes on. You know, me and the acquaintance really are not vibing. Like we are butting heads every day, and it's like, I'm really thinking about like, I don't want to live with you, and she's like, I don't want to live with you, and it's like, oh, well, you know, what do we do? And so luckily, the one friend, the good friend that I had, like, she was able to help us work through it. And then we also ended up finding jobs like literally like 3 days before the 2 weeks was up. Or I think we found jobs a little earlier, at least I did. And then we found a place to live like 2 or 3 days before the 2 weeks was up. So that was like the deciding factor, like, all right, we either find a place or we don't. and we ended up finding a place, ended up renting it out, and from there, things got more stable, I guess. Not better, but they got more stable, right? So I guess I'll get into a bit of this. When I was living in this apartment, it was a 2-story apartment. It was 3 bedrooms, and this place was in the hood in Hawaii. I didn't know Hawaii had a hood until I was there and living in it. And yeah, this place was in the hood. This apartment was roach infested. You hear a bunch of, like, I don't know what the heck was going on. There was so many kids in this apartment area too, and they were screaming and yelling, I swear, at all hours of the night. And every now and then at night you'd hear a gunshot or two, and it's like, oh man, I thought this was paradise. This is not what I envisioned at all. So yeah, that was the experience in the apartment for the majority of the time that we were there. I mean, obviously things got better, but yeah. So the first, I think, month, maybe, more or less, well, for sure the first week, 2 weeks, I had no money at this point, right? I was working, and all the money I had was going towards food or transportation to and from work. And I was taking the bus usually. And food there was usually not cheap either. And I had spent all my money on this down payment plus, the rent of the apartment. Like I said, I wasn't managing my money very well at this point, like a fool. So when we get to the apartment, I have no bed, which, go buy a bed. Not that big of a deal. I have no credit cards at this point in my life either. So, yeah, absolutely no money, no credit cards, nothing, right? The other 2 roommates, at least they have credit cards or whatever. They go buy their beds or even an air mattress. I had no money for an air mattress. My friend, she bought an air mattress and she made that work for the first couple weeks, whatever, I didn't even have money for that. So I literally slept on a pile of clothes for the first 2 weeks, more or less, right? And so that was shitty. I'll never forget, it was right around Thanksgiving time too. Sleeping on a pile of clothes. I had no money. Everything was closed. It was Thanksgiving night. I FaceTimed my family, and everybody's at home. They're all enjoying themselves, eating turkey, having a grand time, getting drunk, and I'm sitting here like, yeah, this is what I'm doing, So I ended up hanging up the FaceTime with them. I remember I had 2 packets of ramen noodles, and that was it. Nothing else. No extra coins, no money, no credit card, nothing else. I didn't know anybody. I think the other 2 roommates that I had, they ended up going to one of their friends' houses or something like that. And I was just at home alone in this crappy apartment, no bed, eating ramen noodles in paradise, right? And that was my experience in Hawaii for the first month. For the first 3 months, for the duration of the cruise ship. And the first month was more or less like that. I would say month and a half, 2 months was kind of like that when I first initially got to Hawaii. And yeah, I went to a beautiful beach or 2 in that time frame as well. But, nothing like what I imagined Hawaii to be. Not even close, right? So that was my introduction into traveling. And yeah, so I'm gonna explain more in depth about like my time in Hawaii in the next video, and we'll go from there, guys. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that traveling is not always glamorous and always what you make it out to be. It can be, and if you plan it out, sure, it will be. But for me, I've always had this curiosity to travel, and that was my first real life get your feet wet type of experience. And that was the introduction to traveling for me.